All right, Rob. Now, there is currently a game that's scheduled to start in about 41 minutes.
We
We're
do
going to,
not care.
we do not care. However, we do very, very much care about your United States of America fighting off the reverse sweep from Tijana Boskovic and Serbia and managing to get a massive, massive, massive win to, I'm not going to say stay alive because they still have to play France in their pool, and having won those two sets, like they would have at least had 5 points. But this is a massive, massive moral and emotional victory for this team as well.
Huge. It was huge, and it was on a razor's edge in that fifth set. And I'm still not sure that my heart rate has recovered. I'm not sure that it ever will. But this was really a heck of an Olympic Games battle. Like, it's an all-time classic. We've now played Serbia 3 Olympic Games in a row. They beat us, I believe, in the semis in Rio. We beat them in the semis in Tokyo, and now a 5-set banger in pool play in Paris. I mean, this was just another chapter of a classic. There's a lot to get into at this match, obviously. And you asked me before the show, Everett, had the United States women lost this match, what sort of a rant would I have gone on? And it would have been an all-timer. It would have surpassed even the one from all the nonsense against China the other day. But we have to first start in the fact that the United States did win this game. We blocked 19 balls, which is absolutely absurd, featuring from 8 from Chiaka Boger herself. And despite a lot of tumultuousness,
Olympic record, by the way, or sorry, ties an Olympic record.
8 for an individual.
Yes, according to the broadcast.
Tremendous blocking performance from Chiaka herself and the whole team. And at the end of the day, we did win the fifth set 17-15, and we made it happen with whoever we had on the floor at the time. We figured it out. And there's definitely some pros and some cons, no shortage of either, for the way that we went about this match. But by the narrowest margins, we were able to push it over the finish line. And we'll talk a lot about Serbia later. But Everett, what did you see from sort of the revolving door that was the United States and what we tried to get done today?
Well, I think that they benefited from Serbia being really bad in the first two sets.
That's
right?
For sure.
7 hitting errors in the first set for Serbia, 10 in the second for Serbia. And I feel like it really lulled the USA into a false sense of security where they weren't actually producing that much, right? Where they weren't actually producing a lot of their own scores, and they were blocking pretty well. And I think that's the one thing that has to be on in this American team. Like, if they're not blocking, they're not playing well. That's the bottom line. They need to be the best blocking team in the world if they're going to win. And
I think it's by far our most reliable method of producing breakpoints because we're 100%. Not that good of a transition offensive team, especially with our lineup.
And you're not a great side out team either.
Right? We're also not a great serving team. We made so many serving errors in set number 1 and still refused to use Micah Hancock's jump serve. We can talk about that later. But I agree. When we block 19 balls, that is the most threatening version of this team.
Yeah, for sure. Now, once again, I think that you have a Serbia team that hasn't played all summer, played France and walked all over them in the first set. And you know what, Rob? You should have been on board with me of Serbia losing that first set because I think it would have scared them a little bit more. And instead, it didn't scare them. And it took 2 sets here against the USA to really get them going. But eventually, like, the Serbia team did, and you could tell that the United States was looking for those answers because it's really is like once Tijana Boskovic starts playing at that level, it's kind of like, what can you do about it? And how can you slow that down? And I actually don't think it was that bad. I think it was interesting how long of a leash Avery Skinner got. I would have maybe seen her kind of get pulled out. The fact that we're still not going with Kelsey Robinson-Cook and Plummer together is
completely baffling. We tried, I think, every single other combination of outside hitters that exists in this match, except the one that we should have been going for since the beginning of the summer.
But it seems like Plummer isn't playing her game because of it. And I think she's used to having that reliability of like knowing, like when she's with Conegliana, hey, I'm that P1 position. I've got Kels behind me who's going to back me up. And who's going to be able to play defense and pass and pass well. And I mean, hey, like even Kevin Barnett was talking about it, that he had talked to Kelsey Robinson Cook after the game against China, and he was like, when you're out there with two pass first left sides, then the spacing gets a little bit weird,
Exactly.
right? And then it's the opposite happening with you have Avery
with both
Skinner
offensive
and
left sides. Exactly.
right. So like it's these types of imbalances that I'm really not sure about Team USA in this one, and why you're not putting the two teammates that have played together now for so many seasons together. But around that, I think that Poulter set a pretty good game, and obviously my one consistent praise about this team is that Justine Wong Orantes is a game changer, right? She is a libero that has the ability to make an impact on the game, and she keeps them alive. Like she really does. It's really hard to see just with digs. I mean, she led the game with 11 digs, but it's really hard to say. But like, she just makes an impact consistently for this team.
There was one in particular that she made on Boskovic when she reached over the top of the block and Justine like dove down right in front of her, scooped it off the floor. We ended up winning the point late in the fifth. Like enormously important plays. And then there was a scramble on a off speed play that she made. I think it might have even been in the rally that won us the match. That fifth set was as epic of a roller coaster as any volleyball fan could have ever seen or asked for. And I kind of wish that I would have gotten to watch that without skin in the game, because it would have been more just pure entertainment instead of it was heart-wrenching anxiety. But I mean, Serbia led 8-5 at the side change. Then we went on a massive run, led 12-9, led 14-11. Then completely choked two of the easiest serves I've ever seen from Katarina Lazovic. Just complete lollipops. One shanked by Justine, the other shanked by Skinner. Mishandled those 2 points, got it into overtime. And then the two things that completely confused me, Everett, as we sort of shift to talking about Serbia a little bit. Well, for one, why the hell did they take Tijana Boskovic off the court for a couple points there in the fifth? And then even more so, why did they set Alexandra Uzelac that very last ball that she hit out of bounds to lose the match? Why would you do either of those things? Tijana Boskovic was the entire reason that you were there, and she is the entire reason that you are an Olympic caliber contender. When you have a player like that, you live or die on her left shoulder. What are you doing taking her off the floor, Guidetti? It's crazy.
I mean, the chat's calling for it, but Guidetti's approaching stooge category here.
Close.
Right? And like, maybe it's just due to how many of them there are in coaching, but the majority of our stooges are Italians. Just point that out there.
Also, the majority of coaches in the world are Italians. But
yeah, that's what I said. But yeah, like, just what are we doing? She's arguably the best player in the world. Do you think Velasco is going to sub out Agonu? Right? And the only reason Santarelli is going to sub out Vargas is because you've got Karakurt potentially backing up. But if Karakurt's on the court,
because maybe you have Antropova in certain rotations, but you literally don't have a second opposite. Sarah Lozo is like the fifth outside hitter off the bench. Why would you bring her in, then set her two balls, one where she got stuff blocked, the other where she got slowed down and we ran it back down their throats? That was a horrendous coaching decision.
Yeah, I maybe did she call it herself? Like, I'm just trying to give Guidetti some type of, this is where I wish we were there and we could ask him.
Yeah, me too. Serbia looked so bad for the first two sets. Like so bad. Like they hadn't even seen a volleyball before. Like similar to how bad the U.S. looked against China in the first two sets, but I feel like those
worse. I would say.
I think worse too, because it wasn't like Serbia was experiencing an identity crisis like the U.S. was. Serbia was just experiencing a total physical and mental lapse in ability to execute volleyball plays, but they made a couple nice changes. One was getting Maja Onjanovic out of there for a little while because she was not setting the ball well. I thought Dercha was better today. The other was putting in Jovana Stevanovic in the middle, because when Serbia's block woke up in the third is when that match really started to change.
Yeah, Stevanovic and Alexic. Alexic was massive. She ended the block with the match with 6 blocks. And I mean, we've seen this before from Stevanovic. Like, she was massive for them in their last World Championship defense. Like, she was huge for them in the middle and made a few points that, like, we thought that she should have been on the dream team for that
I
event.
remember that.
So it's because of that event that I also always surprised me when she comes off the bench. Because in my head she's such a key player, and I mean she showed it again today, coming off the bench with 9 points. Krtajic only managed 1, so this is where you maybe you're going with a little bit more experience than the young kids. So very interesting now, Rob, with this pool is that we have the potential of a triangle situation,
Yes,
which
we do.
this is what I love. This is what I live for. It's like you live for the relegation races in the Italian league. I love for triangle ties.
Yeah. So if Serbia manages to beat China, which is very possible,
I think they have a good chance to. I think
I think so
that
too.
I think that matchup for Serbia and for China is in Serbia's favor.
Yeah, I kind of agree with that.
Just because I feel like how aggressively offensive Serbia is going to throw China a little bit off of kilter, and especially how aggressive they are from the baseline. But also, Rob, I do think that this schedule is really of the benefit of the USA women now.
Well, now that we got through it, I was real worried coming into the Olympics about just getting through it. Like 2 matches against the best 2 teams in our pool with only 1 day off in between. But the fact that we won one of those matches and now we get the free game against France with 3 days rest, like that sets us up a hell of a lot better now than if we had lost that match today. Like assuming we beat France, then we're going to get a much better seed in the quarterfinal round than we would have if we had lost this match. We would have gone in with 5 points instead of 6. And now, depending on how tiebreakers go, there's a chance that we win this pool. It's possible.
I mean, there's a chance, I think, for any of the teams to win this pool, right? Because it really comes down to, can Serbia beat China, or if China wins, they get first.
Yep.
Right? China wins, they get first. But if Serbia can beat China in something other than 5,
they get first.
They will get first. But if they beat them in 5, then that's when things get interesting.
It would probably come down to point ratio.
It probably would.
Assuming that everybody beats France 3-0, then it would come down to point ratio. That would be crazy.
That would be spicy. So it's going to be really interesting.
So just to finish a couple of thoughts about the United States. One, I think we just have to spend some time talking about how good Chaka Bogu was today. Not only did she block 8 balls, but just like some of those stuff blocks, especially in set 2 that I remembered. I mean, she went on a run in set 1 as well. But some of those were like stuff blocks that felt like they were worth more than just 1 point. Some of those like really like put a stranglehold on Serbia and started to stomp them into the ground a little bit. And she was just amazing moving side to side and getting over the net quick and getting a couple on Bošković as well that really turned the game around, at least for us early. And then she was clutch in the 5th as well. I do still have some issues with her serving. Her serve is a big problem. It's kind of like Tobias Crick-like, but whatever. We'll take it in the blocking game. And then even though we really struggled to find identity with our lineup in this game, because I still don't think that we have a whole lot of clarity and roles. I still don't really think we know what we're doing. There is value to be gained from winning a match in the Olympic Games the way that we won it today. There is value to be gained from having to scramble and having to fight and having to claw at whatever you might be able to get a fingertip hold on and hold on to it for dear life and try and push the thing over the finish line. Because there was a lot of that match where we were floundering and had no idea what we were doing. And I think even going into the 5th set, because we got crushed so soundly in the 4th, I don't really think anybody knew who was going to start in the 5th, especially at the outside hitter position. But the women that were on the court found a way.
I like the way they fought back, because like I said, they got lulled into a false sense of security in set number 2, and they came back in the only way that, like, in a way that only Serbia can come back, and this is the women and the men, where they just kind of turn things on, and all of a sudden, they just hit that button, and the tidal wave is going the other way twice as strong. And first you kind of have to steady yourself, and then you got to figure out where you are. So for them to be able to find their feet in that 5th set, especially since they are already down, especially since all that momentum was
down
going,
8-5.
That's the character and the fight that I need to see from Team USA if they're going to win. Right? That is what I need to see from them if they are going to win. Right? They need to bring some of the intangibles in that make up for their deficiencies in other areas, and that's what they did today. They found that fight, and even like they were down what was it 6-3, then they were up 14-11. The next thing you know, we're tied 14-14. They were able to fight off those ups and downs, and if they're able to do that consistently, then they may have a shot to do some damage in this tournament.
Very, very well said. We've got to have more mental character than we do talent in some ways, and if there's any chance we're going to stand on top of the podium again, that's where it's going to have to come from.